So, just a few words on the recent apparent suicide of one Jeffrey Epstein, he was a millionaire financier in the United States of America, and a lot of you have probably heard of him. He was accused of having been running some international child prostitution ring, having this island, having these planes, having these apartments, and all these things involving a lot of very high profile people in the world. And he had something previously in, what was it? It was some previous thing about 10 years ago. He was caught up in something, and then it was in Florida, the state of Florida. And for those of you who don't know, some even in the United States of America, I don't think completely understand this, how there's different systems of law between the state and the federal cases. So he was caught up on a state charge, and then that was there was some shenanigans going on with it. I would say shenanigans. It seems like shenanigans. And then the federal people came in. Jim Acosta was one of the people involved in this. He was a DA at this time. And then he later on became part of the Trump administration. And when that kind of came back, when Jeffrey Epstein got caught again, more recently, Jim Acosta came out and did this talk about it. He was talking about how what they had found him guilty of, or what they were going to accuse him or charge him from, in the actual state level, was not going to be sufficient enough to give him a lot of time. So the federal people came in and they wanted a different kind of thing to give him a different kind of a different kind of time, so he could actually see time in jail and things like this. And there was something coming out. There was one thing I wanted to point out in the press conference, in the interview. Somebody came out and said, oh, you're saying this is child prostitution, or you're saying these are prostitutes when these are actually people who were kids. Like, so you're saying like the kids themselves are prostituting themselves. Like, are you calling them prostitutes and not victims? But no, this is a kind of situation where, look, if you have something like the Chris Hansen, the Catch a Predator type thing, or if you have police pretending to be drug dealers or pretending to be prostitutes, and you go out there and it's a police person, right? It's an adult pretending to be a child to catch a child predator, or a policeman pretending to be a drug dealer to catch somebody buying drugs, or a policewoman pretending to be a prostitute to catch somebody trying to buy prostitution. Once those people get caught and arrested, they will still be caught for attempting to pollute or to damage a minor. You would still be caught for attempting to buy drugs. You'll still be caught for solicitation of a prostitute, even though the people those perps were actually dealing with were not actually a child or a drug dealer or a prostitute. Those people technically had no intention of providing the illegal thing that the person was purchasing for. So that's just something like that was something I was seeing kind of in that case, and realizing how little people understand how the political system works, how the governmental system works, how the systems of law work in the country that they live in just the world in general. Now, coming back to this Epstein thing, like, it's ridiculous. The guy was supposedly on suicide watch because he supposedly had, like, a few weeks ago, had a suicide attempt, and then he was taken off. This is the things I've heard so far. He was taken off of suicide watch. The guards who were supposed to actually watch him at that time didn't do the checks last night, with the night where he actually was found out he had committed suicide from it. There's other guards who were supposed to do 30-minute checks and another 15-minute check, not in there. They've shown the actual rooms of the suicide watch things, and like, it doesn't look like you can actually commit suicide in those things. The kind of gear, like blankets and the shirts and the things they give you, are not things you can cut up and tie up and make nooses and things like this. Conspiracy theorists have been talking. It's not even, this is really conspiracy theorists in this situation, because everyone's doing this. This is coming across the board, all across the board. People from political left, right, libertarians, people, I mean groups where it's just movie stuff and people are talking about this thing. I guess movie stuff because it's involved with like movie actors, celebrities, politicians, people in churches, royalty. It's a global thing. Even an atheist group here in Kenya, there's people in the social group, people posting about this Jeffrey Epstein thing. And I think this is something that kind of making me think of how much people have some understanding of how potentially corrupt and dangerous the state is. The people who are supposedly elites, people who are celebrities, people who are controlling the world and things like this, people who look up to. For me, there's this website called, what's it called? Crazy Nights and Dreams or something like this. It's a site that gives blind items about celebrities and mostly Hollywood and a bunch of other things also involved in it. And I remember when I first found the site, I was like, how could these people do this thing? And this was about 5 years ago, and you get into this kind of rabbit hole of just hearing the things and just falling deeper and deeper and just listening to more and more of these things. But now I look at it and I have more of understanding that these people are just people, just like we are people. You can think of people who can do some pretty crazy things in your personal life, that have done crazy things in your personal life, but because they're in your circle, you don't confront them about it. You don't talk to people about it. There's families who know family members are committing crimes, but they don't talk about it. There's people who go to jobs and say things that they completely personally disagree with, but because they're getting paid, they keep doing it. Okay, so where was I? Just finishing up. Yeah, so people understand that people will do grimy stuff, not even just for money, just because people are willing to look aside at something and say, it's benefiting me not to be open about these things. I personally may be completely against this, but if it happens, I'm okay with it. So for me, actually thinking this could happen where somebody could be doing this at that high level thing, and you add the fact that you look at many of the most popular religions, there's people who are considered holy, considered the top, the best of humanity, that are involved in pedophilia, in incest, in all murder, in all kinds of things like this. It's been part of our history. Just we understand that people ahead of us, they kept slaves, they were doing all these negative things, and the world changes. I think what we value changes, and I think it's positive to see how many people are just like, this is ridiculous, this is absurd that it's coming out like this. And in these cases, unfortunately, if the primary person is in an actual federal case, a criminal case against this person, if that person dies, then there's no more criminal case. You can move on to civil cases and push that, but in those cases, I don't think it gets as much coverage as it would, or it doesn't. You don't really get to actually arrest and get as many other people that are implicated. And this Crazy Days and Nights site had this whole map or this diagram, just covering who might be connected in what kind of ways and things like this. For me, this is the kind of thing where when I started finding out about things like this, I was like, okay, I don't disbelieve that it's going, but it's kind of really gets to me to actually read it day by day and slowly by slowly as it unveils. It's kind of the thing where I would rather just somebody deal with it. If there's something I could do to stop it, yeah, help that. But then I just want to know that people are being stopped. So it doesn't have to be a public thing. I would prefer these people be named, because I think if they're named and shown out there, then you find out who supports these things and be able to stop it from happening in other places. Maybe future victims can actually see that the world is against this. But just knowing that there's somebody out there doing these things, even if they're just stopped without you actually finding out, to me it's kind of enough. I mean, just thinking that it's still going on is just the thing that's really bugging me, these things. One of the conspiracy theories I may have here is, okay, first of all, I don't think it's an actual suicide. The guy killed himself. somebody killed him. I mean, it just seems so suspicious. These people like Joe Scarborough, such weird things, mentality going on about Russia. Oh, this seems like it might be a Russian thing. Like, come on now, come on. Anyway, this possibility, maybe he was actually, it's a fake kind of suicide thing when he's in a witness protection program, but people are thinking it could be a witness protection program because they're getting mud, because he has enough dirt and enough people that you can't actually, he's too protected. He's too much of a made man. Like, he might have that dead man switch type of thing where if he dies, all this material gets released to the public and then people get implicated. So they're pulling strings and paying the right people so that this person can actually be taken out for free and be put on some island somewhere where he's actually okay and he's alive. I'm hoping if it's something like that, it's not to do this witness protection to keep him alive because you're protecting him, but instead he's flipped and then he's actually going to come out and unveil this stuff. But that's one thing I want to think. What if it comes out? What does the world look like? First of all, that this many people are open to this actually happening is to me a promising idea, because people realize that there is actual evil and actual negativity in the world. People don't just think of the state or the elites or the people or the celebrities as these people who are just somehow better than your regular humans. Like, no, they're flawed. They just have different kind of abilities. We know people who probably, if they had this much temptation and this much access to resources, would do a lot of things. I think we definitely know of people who, if it was told, hey, you do this and this and this with these people, and you allow this and this and this to be happen to somebody who's your friend, then you get $100,000 a month. You get to be in movies. You get to be famous. You get to fly around the world. A lot of people would do that. I've seen a lot of people just do some base things for way less than what these celebrities and people actually get in turn for it. Just think of celebrity worship in general. How many people, if just a celebrity says they support something, will go out and purchase that thing and support that thing just off of this other person because they feel this person is worth doing? So now imagine that same person comes to this kind of mentality of a person that says, let me sleep with you or sleep with my friend or do this and this, and people will do that. So the actual mentality of people to actually participate in what is alleged here, a child sex ring, to have parents who let their kids get involved in this without talking, to have situations where somebody can feel in a position where they can't have somebody to talk to about somebody assaulting them, harming them in this way, or you can have people who are very public like this and meet other people and nobody of those other people actually decides to ask them, is there something wrong? Can I help you? To have systems of law enforcement and all this. Talking about the law enforcement, another funny meme I saw out there was one where it's like, okay, no, it wasn't a meme. It was by Maj Toure, who's a guy for Black Guns Matter, and he was talking about yeah, the police are supposed to, they can't even prevent a man from committing suicide while on suicide watch, yet they're supposed to protect us or United States of America citizens without them being armed. It's like, what does this say? So the crazy thing with this is, first of all, the people who are doing this, if there is some kind of plan to actually get and kill this man, imagine what those people must think he was about to unveil, that they would risk doing something so public where so many people are just like calling BS on it. Now, finishing off, what I was trying to say was, I think it's a positive thing to see that people are questioning the system out there. People are open to understanding that the system out there can be manipulated and used in a negative way. What's the solution to all of this? I honestly think it's being able to be more honest in your life. Start day to day in your daily life. If you think something is wrong, point it out, bring it up, have those uncomfortable conversations with friends. Let people see and understand what you value. If somebody who's close to you has hurt you, bring it up, discuss it with that person, because that person might also have been hurt by somebody else and be passing that on to you. See evil, hear evil, and speak about evil. Don't just pretend that it's not going to be fixed. Don't just go back and pray or just hold it to yourself. I think find people you can share this with and talk to about these things, and I think it's going to be a better place the more of things like that happen. So that's just some thoughts on this. Might talk more about this topic. It's a developing topic. There's many other things around it. What do you guys think about memes and situations like this? Because you have some memes where some of them is like lulls, and then some of it is like, what we're talking about here. It may be kind of like a gallows humor thing, like a dark humor where people would rather laugh than cry type of thing. Maybe they're laughing and crying. But let me know what you guys think about your actual things, your actual ideas. It's a bit crazy to me when I think about it that with the Clinton death toll thing, people literally, there's a lot of people who literally believe that presidents of the United States are just offing people on a regular basis. Sure, I mean, you hear this kind of behavior from despots in other countries, like this is why Gaddafi was taken out, because he was doing these kind of things. This is why we need to get Assad out, because he's killing his people. That's the same kind of thing people think is being done by people like the Clintons. Now, it might be on different levels. Like, they're doing it, it's more pointed instead of just wiping out entire groups of people in different situations. But there's definitely like third world dictatorial type of stuff that many Americans, many first world people believe is occurring with their leaders and people in power in their countries. So it's kind of interesting to see how people are aware that this behavior is. And if this is new to you, what do you think that means about the world? If it's not new to you, what kind of world do you think we're living in? Do you think it's better now than it's been in the past? Do you think improvements are happening? Let me know what you guys think about the different conspiracy theories out there. Do you have any? If you have any interesting things about this situation. I just recently, again, on that Crazy Days and Nights site, because I just stumbled upon it again. A friend of mine posted that it's called the diagram, and then I was like, I forget this site because last time I was on it, it's just like a rabbit hole. It just sucks up your time. I found out there might be a thing with supposedly his brother, Epstein's brother, is also involved with the pimping out like Victoria's Secret models. I'm saying again, these are things that are out there. It's a conspiracy theory site. See, people say it's conspiracy theory site. Blind items, things coming out. If you've been on the Crazy Days and Night site, check that out. It's going to take a lot of your time. If you have any other conspiracy theories, let me know. I don't know. Like, share, and subscribe. Goodbye. So thanks for listening again. This whole Jeffrey Epstein thing is just conspiracy central. There's going to be so much information about this coming out. There really has been so much, and I hope it doesn't just get shuffled off away. I don't think it will. But with all these conspiracy theories, there's here the Sowell 3 on the merchandise that's on the screen right now. It's 3 questions that Thomas Sowell, an economist and great thinker, asks about economics and politics. I think they can be applied to other parts in life. So let's apply them here to this Epstein situation. So compared to what? Him actually doing these things, compared to what? Compared to nothing like this happening. Compared to you thinking that, hey, you see this happening with regular people, but celebrities and famous people and people with power, they have so much more access to things, but they're supposedly going to be these heavenly people that don't have a small percentage that do these things and then turn it into something this massive. Now, when you talk about the suicide, compared to what? Why would he actually do this? Like, why would he actually commit suicide? And how would he actually be able to commit suicide in this situation? Compared to these people with all these abilities actually having the reach to end this guy's life or to be a witness protection thing. There's so many other things that are very possible compared to just, yeah, the guy committed suicide. Now, at what cost? At what cost? I think one thing you got to think is you talking to yourself. What's the cost of you being quiet about these things, not talking to your friends and family and relatives and engaging in this? Yeah, maybe maybe it's not affecting you. Maybe you don't know anyone that's been assaulted. Maybe you don't know anyone that would do something like this. So it's not a big issue. But if you actually talk, I think you can help things like this happen less. Now, at what cost for the people involved in this? These people have money. Money, power, and influence is things that these people have. The amount of things that they would be able to actually give to people to let people hurt other people, you already know this happens in day-to-day life. At what cost? How much are you being paid salary-wise in your life that you decide, I'm not going to say XYZ about my workplace, about people I know because it will cost me my job. It will cost me my wife, my husband, my ability to support my kids, my position in my family, my position in my community, my position at church. I don't want to talk about these kind of things. How many things do we give up regularly at technically lower costs and abilities than things? How much would you think you would have to be a security guard working at this Manhattan Correction Center in order to be kind of paid off to a situation where you wouldn't want to do the searches a day that Jeffrey Epstein happened to kill himself? Now, what solid proof do you have? This is going to be the hardest thing right now. What solid proof is had? Now, Jeffrey Epstein had a lot of solid proof. If he came out and actually said things one way or the other, or things that actually happened, he'd probably be able to know about the solid proof. At least in some certain ways about certain things and certain people. So they would have a big benefit at putting him out of the way. Now, how much solid proof is actually still there to actually expose any of these people? How much solid proof is there for you personally to actually support any conspiracy theory? Like right now with this suicide thing, how much solid proof would we ever be able to get that it wasn't a suicide? How much solid proof would we be able to get that it is a suicide? There's been a photograph of him being somebody who looked like him being wheeled out on a stretcher. I was watching Mr. Medical and he was talking about, oh, his legs look too short. We're like, look, I could tell from the photograph that the angle of the angle of the stretcher was going off, so you only saw half of the stretcher in the picture. Yet he would seem to be indicating that the stretcher itself was where the end should be, so his feet should be there. So with that photograph, it'd be like his feet are like right below his waist. But no, it was the angle of the photograph. There's some with his nose, saying his nose is too bent and compared to like a straight photo of his nose. Now, we don't know the dates on that. We don't know if he's been being beaten up in jail. He just had that recent suicide attempt thing. where maybe somebody punched him in the face and he had a swollen nose. It could be many things to why his nose isn't the same shape. So, what's the solid proof you're going to be able to back any of your conspiracy theories, or what solid proof is the authority is going to be able to provide to you to say that, hey, these people actually did this, or Jeffrey Epstein actually did this? What solid proof do we have of anyone being guilty and involved in these things? Is a photograph with somebody solid proof? People are talking about, oh, look at the photographs of Epstein with Donald Trump in the past. Look at that video of Epstein laughing when Donald Trump seemed to say something. Yeah, there's also photographs and video of Hillary Clinton laughing with Donald J. Trump. So does that mean that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are best friends even after that presidential election? All these people who are talking crap about Donald Trump, Al Sharpton calling him racist and things like this. When people go back to the past and say, "Look at this photograph of Al Sharpton with Donald J. Trump. He's with Jesse Jackson. He's with all these people that are calling him racist." They don't consider that to be proof of Donald Trump not being racist now. Yet they go back to the past and say, look, this photograph with Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump means they're best friends. It's ridiculous stuff. So that's it with the Thomas Sowell thing. Like, share, and subscribe. There's a lot of other merchandise below in the store. I think that's one way you can help out the channel. First of all, sharing these videos, of course, and I really like engaging with people in the comment section, and also just going down and buying some merchandise. I'll try to keep the merchandise coming, start integrating that with the video. I'd really like to get to a point where a lot of the videos I'm posting are actually connected with merchandise being released. And yeah. Anyway, like, share, and subscribe. Goodbye.